Everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Thursday, March the 21st. We'll close things out at Gulfstream Park with race number 9, 7.5 furlongs, 2 turns on the turf. It is a second level allowance race with a 62,500 claiming option. Taking a look at this field, 9 entered. The 2 English Bs getting some class relief, Mike, and that just might be what the doctor ordered for Graham Motion and Johnny Velasquez. Last time out off the layoff, he really didn't break as well as he usually does, but this is a guy that's kept stakes competition, and he just is a little bit short of that kind of horse.
True enough. I guess it's all about, whether this horse still has what it takes as an 8-year-old now, Dan, because he maybe had a little bit of an excuse off the layoff last time. It's a steady first time through the stretch there. But after that, he really didn't do any running at all. Maybe he just needed the race. I don't know. I don't know how short I'd want to go on this horse.
He's a tactical horse, though, that would benefit from some pace, and there should be speed in here. The 1 and the 5 are coming off gate to wire wins, My Sea Cottage and Stat. Even a horse like the 3 Ruse, who they have last, can be a little bit closer to the pace. The pace should be honest. It'll be interesting to see the little cat and mouse game that goes on between My Sea Cottage and Stat early.
Yeah, I mean, My Sea Cottage has the inside advantage, and he's a pretty fast horse. I'd be surprised if they rated him, Dan. I guess we'll see how the pace all plays out. Your point's well taken about Ruse. They've sort of consciously rated him in his last 2 starts, and it hasn't really worked out. I don't expect them to go with him in this race, but they're not going to take him back to last.
My Sea Cottage steps up sharp off a career best buyer performance. This is his first start off of a layoff at Gulfstream in a first level allowance over course and distance. Went right to the front in this race, is going to keep on going to score by a length. Now, he won off the layoff last year at Gulfstream. Second time back, he was favored. He caught a field with other speeds. He was forced to sit. He got beat.
Yeah, he had all the best of it here. This was a really soft trip from. That was Ruse and those red blinkers there, who wound up getting outfinished late, but he had an impossible trip in that race and really had no chance. I mean, this horse, My Sea Cottage, he ran fine last time down off the layoff, but that was a super easy trip. They just conceded the lead to this horse, and he had plenty left.
8-year-old English B won the Grade 3 Virginia Derby all the way back in 2019, and he's kept some very good company since then. He just doesn't win very often. We talked about his race off the layoff last time out. He was the beaten favorite in an allowance race where he had a little bit of trouble, but Graham Motion usually has them ready to fire off layoffs, and he's back here in another allowance. He probably works out a good trip. I don't see the edge he has over this field to bet him at a short price. He easily could win.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. I mean, in some ways, he's probably the horse to beat even, and he should just get a better trip this time. If you just feel like he needed that start off the layoff, and you want to give him another chance in here, I'm not really going to argue with you. He's just not the kind of horse I like to bet, especially at short prices.
New York bred Ruse is the number 3, and early in his career, he was kind of a speed horse. All 3 of his lifetime victories have come in gate-to-wire fashion, but in his last 2 races, it seems like they've tried to make a concerted effort to take him off the pace and make one run. He ran well 2 starts back in a first-level allowance, wired by My Sea Cottage last time out. Just a race he was taken far off the pace, tried to get into it with a wide run and flattened out.
Yeah, I mean, they did the same thing with him in each of his last 2 starts. And, I guess it was just by design, Dan. They just took a hold of this horse early and took him back off the pace. And I thought he actually ran pretty well, I thought, in there. He had no chance with the 1-2 finishers going that way around the track. He actually put in a run last time. That pace just was not coming back for him. I like what they've done with him lately. They just can't do that here. You can't take a hold of him and take him all the way back. You can go forward and sort of sit maybe mid-pack here and get him in range around the turn.
JP Hellish is a horse that's very consistent. He's won 10 times. He's been on the board in his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 starts, and he's tactical, and I think that's his best quality. He worked out a pretty good trip 2 back to ran a 95 buyer against Ice Chocolate, who would probably be favored or second choice in this race. Last time out, he ran okay in a 62.5 claimer. We're going to take a look at JP Hellish in a little bit tight going into the first turn. I thought all in all settled into a nice pocket trip, Mike, and is just going to run an even third.
Yeah, he got a really good trip in this race. And I guess you could just argue that the 1-2 finishers of this race, the 2 Pletcher horses, they're just better than he is. And JP Hellish had to settle for third here. It's not a bad performance. He ran well 2 starts back, Dan, and Ice Chocolate's a really good horse. That race wasn't as close as the margin of finish will make you believe. Ice Chocolate was way the best in there.
Stats up next, and he's one of the speeds in this race, coming off a 92 Beyer effort. His career best when entered for the 62.5 claiming option. That's this race going a mile, and Stat went right to the front in here. Got a little bit of a breather on the backstretch. He sprints on home to score. Safi Joseph does have him in good form. He's a horse that doesn't necessarily need the lead to win, so perhaps breaking outside of My Sea Cottage just allows Edgar Zayas to play the break a bit more.
Yeah, maybe it does, Dan. I don't know if I'd be really interested in taking him in here if I didn't feel like he was going to be on the lead, though. I guess we'll see how they play it. I wouldn't bet him off. He ran fine that race we just watched. I wouldn't bet him off of that. He had all the best of it there. And I don't think with My Sea Cottage in this race, I don't think that trip's available to him in this race. I'm just ultimately not convinced that he's good enough if he doesn't get that kind of a trip. And it's not like he's some kind of great price on the line.
Uncoupled stablemate, the 6 Bluebirds over will be a bitter price. He won the Grade 3 Gray at Woodbine over the Tapeta surface back as a 2-year-old. It's sort of been a start and stop career since for this son of English Channel, who showed some speed from a tough outside post position last time out on the synthetic track. He's been okay on turf. This is the kind of horse, though, that also likes to be close to the pace, and I just think there are more quality speeds.
Yeah, great. He's very lightly raced, though. I don't know. I was conflicted over what to do with him in here because of the longer prices in the race. He's probably the one that I was most interested in here, mostly because the race 2 back on the grass. He didn't run well last time. The race 2 back on the turf, man, I hated the ride that he got in that race. And I think he would have been a lot closer at the end of that race if that rider had just gotten more aggressive with him. The problem is getting more aggressive with him in this field, it's probably not going to help him.
American Speed, the number 7, I think has been very well handled by Jeremiah O'Dwyer, who's an underrated trainer. He's got Sibelius coming up to repeat, hopefully for him, in the Golden Shaheen next week in Dubai. He comes off the layoff, Mike. They sprint him going 5. He just seems like he's more effective going a route of ground. He was listed as a new gelding for this race. They stretched him out to 7.5 in a first level allowance, and American Speed got a pretty good trip. Again, he's saving ground in behind the leader. He gets to the outside, and he's going to get there. He's a game horse.
Yeah, the trip really works out for him here, but he's game to close this race down. I guess the one negative I had on him is I'm not a fan of the horse that he's running down at the end here, Alexis Zorba. It feels like all that horse does is lose at short prices. But I still thought this horse ran well in there, and your point's well taken. The first 2 turf starts sprinting 5 furlongs. That seems like it's not his game.
Don't know what to take of the 8 Determinedly, who's listed as a first-time gelding, receives the services of Jose Ortiz, and is running some solid races on the dirt. The question is surface. I'm just not sure he's a turf horse, and he's going to have to deal with a little bit of a layoff.
Yeah, me too. I didn't love his. They ran him on turf 3 times earlier in his career as a 2-year-old. I didn't really think he ran particularly well in any of those races, Dan. He's a better horse now, so he has that going for him. He's by Cairo Prince. I love the Cairo Princes on the grass. And he's a new gelding for this. So there are some things to like about him at a price.
He's a horse that has some early speed in route races and might be fresh off the layoff. Maybe he's part of the pace, as is the 9 Burn and Turf. The Connections took advantage wisely of the waiver condition off the layoff. 2 starts back, going a mile and a 16th. He scored for the $50,000 level. He was wired by Stat last time out. From this outside post, I wish he was more of a horse that you could depend on to take back and make one run. I just think he likes to be involved early, and thus he might be wide going into the first turn with such a short run into the bend.
Yeah, that's true too. The other thing that I was concerned about too, Dan, is the races of his that I like most are when they had him out in California going down the hill. I feel like maybe even shorter distances are better for this horse, but he's another one. He's got a race or 2 in him. It would give him a real look in here at a price.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for our Thursday race of the day. It's at Gulfstream Park. We're both going to go with Ruse. I just think he gets a much better pace setup this time out. And as you're the president of the Tim Hills fan club, you've got to go with him, especially at double-digit odds.
Yeah, he's going to be the right price in here. I'm not terrified of the 2 favorites drawn to the 2 inside posts. Then I don't mind betting against them. And I just don't like the trips that Ruse got in his last 2 starts. I hope he gets a better one here.
I was going to try to beat English B in here. I realize he was the horse to beat based on his back class, but he has a habit of finding one better. 3-1-2-4 for Mike, 3-5-1-4 for me. It's the DRF race of the day for Thursday, the finale at Gulfstream Park. Best of luck.